pick up where we left off from our last episode,
Yeah.
which we told everybody, hey, if you failed the CFP exam, here's how you're going to get yourself back on track. And we,
Another study plan that doesn't work is if you fail the test with your current provider and the study plan that they've given you.
what's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Joe Nissim. With me, as always, is Mr. Raman Singh. He's got one button extra button down because he started working out, and now it's time to show off the swollenness.
You know it. I mean, right now the only thing swole is the stomach, but
Hey, man, teaching CFP is not a physical man's game.
yeah,
Okay, we are
man,
desk jockeys.
I need to stretch more. Like yes, I had a AC guy come into the house and I think I stood for too long and I literally like cramped my quad. Yeah, it was bad.
Nothing is like you sit at your desk all day and you're like, this is good. I'm sitting. Then you go to the gym and you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
everything is feels like it's plopped right on top of each other.
Yeah, I that's exactly how it feels.
Let's pick up where we left off from our last episode,
Yeah,
which we told everybody, hey, if you failed the CFP exam, here's how you're going to get yourself back on track. And we gave you guys those 5 steps. And this week we said we were going to talk a little bit about, well, what do you actually do to get started? What is that study plan? How do I think about a study plan? How do I think about a study plan that's actually going to work? And how do I know it's working along the way?
right, right.
So I know that this was inspired by a Reddit post that you read. So just to kind of give everybody an idea of where we got this idea for this episode, why don't you
Yeah,
go ahead and read that Reddit post?
absolutely. So the recently I read a Reddit post and this person said, "Hey, I recently got access to my Kaplan study program. My goal is to take the test in November. I work full time, and I have to say I'm a bit overwhelmed with the amount of activity Kaplan expects me to complete with this time period. For this whole course." And I was wondering if some other fellow financial professionals have any tips on balancing work while studying, personal time, time to take exercise, hanging out with family. I know there's a feature where they can time everything out for you with the calendar like program on the website. But I'm already so exhausted from work every day. I feel as I'm gonna struggle focusing and putting meaningful time into my studies. What type of advice, would you guys give me?
That's a great question.
I mean, so I re-picked up on studying for the EA after like the third time, and I know how this guy feels, man. Like it's been a long day, and I gotta study. So yeah, the struggle is real. I mean, I have a 5-month-old child. He needs me. My wife needs me. My dogs need me. After that, after tutoring and working client meetings, and you just feel exhausted.
I 100% understand that sentiment. And I think this is kind of an interesting thing because I think the casual study plan does not work.
Yeah.
And I think the study plan where you're giving yourself a whole lot of extra time also doesn't work.
Yeah.
I think
Another study plan that doesn't work is if you fail the test with your current provider and the study plan that they've given you, say majority of the time it doesn't work because if you use their study plan already and you failed, you're gonna do the same thing again.
especially if you gave it actual effort.
If you gave it actual effort,
Yeah.
100%. If you give it actual effort.
Yeah. So I think there's something to be said for like if you're actually going to put in effort, and I'll tell you, the CFP is one of those things because I took CFA. I did a majority of it during COVID time, which was it was absolutely exhausting because at that point my hours were I would see my first student at 8 a.m. I'd see my last student at 4 p.m. Pacific, I would end at 5. And so I had to make changes to my schedule.
Hmm.
And I like what somebody responded here and saying, to be blunt, your work-life balance will be askew this coming year, but
Hmm.
there are things to help. And I think that's kind of where you need to start, is that the mindset has to be is I'm going to have to make a sacrifice. I can't just put CFP on top of everything and hope it works out.
Right.
Right. Especially for most of us who are walking around. And the analogy I always give is like, if you have a glass of water and that water is filled 7/8 to the top, and then you put more water on it, it's going to explode.
Right.
Right. It's just going to overflow.
Hmm.
So if you're walking into CFP kind of just going, I'm going to study here and there, I think that is number one, setting yourself up for failure.
Agreed.
And I think that you need accountability. And I think you need to think about your study plan in advance and then use the plan that we're going to give you. Because before you even dive into that plan, and we're going to give you a good one, okay? And it's going to be unique from what you guys are hearing from other providers, because it's going to emphasize some more so learning at the beginning than just trying to jump in and do multiple choice all the
Right.
time right from the beginning.
But that's what everybody wants to do, right? Just do the
Right.
multiple choice. Like, hey, I can just answer the practice questions.
Right.
The fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and granted, it is far easier to do just jump in and do multiple choice. But I think you end up getting yourself, as we've talked about on this channel 100 times, you're going to get yourself into trouble because
Hmm.
when the answer choices get close, you get screwed. It's
Yeah.
really obvious, some, especially with like easy and a lot of, it's like they give you four answers and you can kind of in your sleep eliminate two of them.
Yeah.
You're not studying, you're
Yeah.
guessing and checking. Come on,
Right.
let's be honest. And like it's easy. It's I can do it from my phone, I can do it from my tablet. So I think number one is set your bed, right? Like make your bed. Like I sit down at this place at this time, and you don't have to study at the same time every day. We know a lot of people who sometimes study in the evenings on some days and study in the morning. Just pick a consistent schedule, not necessarily a uniform schedule.
Right.
Where would you say that most people should, what is step one in this plan if we're going to go out and we're going to pick this perfect study plan? Let's kind of just pretend this is a 4-month plan.
Hmm.
Where should I start in month one? What should the emphasis be?
Well, first, maybe don't do what you've been doing before. Right?
Okay.
But let's jokes apart though. You know, you gotta get back into the fundamentals.
Hmm.
Go back to square one. What does that mean? I was always told this thing called eating the frog, right? No one
Hmm.
wants to eat a frog, but if you got to do it, you got to do it. And you got to eat the frog for the first month, every single day. What does that mean? You got to go back and read the damn material, right? Now, there's ways to do it, right? I mean, I know you're so big into flashcards, you know, like, I mean,
Yes.
that's Joe Nissom right here, right? The
Yeah.
flashcard king. But it's true though.
Oh.
It's the flashcard king. Hey,
So
like
there's a
that?
Tiger King,
Yeah.
but I'm
The
the way
flash
geekier version, the
flash
flashcard
the
king.
flashcard king. Right? Do your pre-study, right? Study your flashcards. I mean, I tell my students, man, you don't want me to understand. I tell them like you need to pick a set of flashcards that you believe in, whether it's, if you have Danko, go use the Danko card. You got the Nissan tutoring, use the Nissan tutoring cards. You got the Zahn, you got the Dalton. Don't mix them all together and say I have 1,000 set of flashcards. But whatever flashcards you have, be so freaking good at it where you could just read it and read the front of the flashcard and you know exactly what's behind it,
Yeah,
right?
I agree. And that first month should feel like low intensity, but just like you're trudging through, like you said, it's eating the frog. It just feels like you're trudging through a bunch of shit,
Yeah,
so to speak. Like there's nothing fun about reading the book.
right,
But we know that students get their butts in trouble at the end of the process because of stuff that they didn't do at the beginning of the process. You get really good at problem solving, but then you're like, oh, I didn't know this rule. Oh, I didn't know this rule. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know that this even existed. And so you're coming back and you're learning from practice questions when, you go back and from a fundamental standpoint, you're like, that's not that hard.
right.
But when you're start preparing for the exam and it's just another thing and another thing and another thing that I didn't know and another, and then it adds up that it's impossible and becomes very overwhelming. So I think from an intensity standpoint, that first month needs to be very low, but you're just trudging through. It's also a big time commitment.
It is absolutely, and some may call it like, oh, it's so boring. I mean, they may not say it out loud, but it's boring.
Oh no,
Boring
you can
is,
see it in their face. It's
yeah,
it's definitely boring.
yeah, yeah. I had this one student and I got him to do that. He passed the test after third attempt. He took Dalton question QBank 3 times
Mm.
and over 5,000 questions at that point and still failed, right? And then, he was like, oh, wait, what do you mean? Like, when do I get to take practice questions? I'm like, you will, not right now. Go back and do flashcards. Go study. Go read the material. I want to be able to open and quiz you, be like, tell me about this. And that's what we say, right? Open answer questions, right? Are you able to explain how a grant or retained annuity trust could work? Are you able to explain when to use this plan versus that plan?
Mm.
Right? Can you explain to me what a money purchase plan is?
Yeah, just tell me what it
Yeah,
is
tell me what it
and
is.
tell me what it is. Give me the key characteristics. You don't necessarily need to go into crazy depth, but just know the
Yeah,
basic characteristics. That's the goal of month one.
exactly. 100%.
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
All right, let's go to month two.
See, month two, now this is where we start building into the details, right? So the foundation is built. It's like we're building a house, man, a 4 month house.
Okay, I
That's
like
what we're
it.
doing. We're building a house in 4 months, right? So we
I love
built the
it.
poured the concrete, the foundation's got to be strong. Now we start building, the walls,
Mm.
the framing, which is the building the details, right? This is where we could start doing, application type of questions. Okay, I learned what a money purchase plan is. Now I have an application question. Can I implement a money purchase plan in this case?
Yep.
What makes sense? Oh, and case studies. Like start looking at some case studies right now, right? The earlier you do it, the better you get comfortable with it. Most people, they leave case studies in the end and then
Mm.
they start freaking out about it. Start hitting some minor case studies. Don't do it. You don't have to do like a 3 page case study with 15 questions right now or 20 questions right now, but start doing some case studies. It starts building some stamina. It
Yeah.
allows you to get a good understanding of the pace that you need to have.
Yeah, and I like that analogy you give. The hardest part of building a house is building the foundation, right? So like you'll see it. It's funny because if you live in any area where they're building something new, they'll be banging away every day for months, just digging into the ground and then setting the foundation, and then all of a sudden, in like it feels like, oh, wait, the first floor is done. Wait, the second floor is done, and it feels almost like within a matter of weeks, the rest of
Hmm.
it is built.
Yeah.
And I agree with that it takes the longest amount of time, but now the time is starting to come down, but the intensity is starting to grow up. So you can
Yeah.
kind of think about it as like two lines that are going to cross in the middle, and the time is coming down. So I don't have to sit there reading for hours and hours and hours like I did in
Right.
month one, but now my brain is being used more. And now I'm starting to put up the wood to separate one room for another. Now there's okay, this is starting to look like a house.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing there. And the key here is we're still working open answer. We're
Okay.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
necessarily doing multiple choice just yet. Because remember, multiple choice is a testing mechanism and it's refining. It's going to help you paint the room. It's going to put up the pictures. It's going to move in the furniture and make it really look like a house. But remember, all the reading, all the flashcards, and all the open answer stuff you did is building out the structure and the foundation.
Right. 100%.
Okay, so that's your month two. Okay, now I'm getting into month three.
This is where the fun stuff begins, right? This is
I
where it's
agree.
like
I agree.
it's like everybody wants to start month three one first, like right immediately,
Right.
right? They're like, hey, can we just start
Exactly.
at month three? But like that's where all the fun stuff begins, right? Because you built the base, you built the foundation, you put up the walls. Now you go ahead and attack those questions, right? The
That's right.
multiple choice questions, the easy questions, the medium questions, right? But this is where, RTFQ comes into a play. And what I tell students is don't just answer like 150 questions a day or 100 questions a day, but be more strategic about answering these questions and break those questions down What is the question saying? Can you explain that question to somebody who's not in the business and what the question is asking? Simplify it. Can you identify keywords around these questions? Truly learn the art of how these questions are written so you can be better at breaking those questions down.
And remember, what you did in month two doesn't go away now. The
Yeah.
whole point of doing month two is so when you do get to month three, you're picking up all those pieces from month two and going, yeah, I did this open answer. Now it's much easier when I'm doing it in multiple choice because I'm so used to doing it open answer that I'm thinking about the answer before I even look at the answer choices. So now, and especially if you're somebody who hasn't trained doing a lot of multiple choice. So if you're a second time test taker or third time test taker, month two is going to be absolute hell for you
Yeah.
because you're so used to doing multiple choice. You want to go fast. I want to do a lot of questions. Remember, volume, doing more is not necessarily better. Better is better.
Yeah.
More is not better.
More is not better.
So, if you're getting to 2000 questions, and here's a crazy thing for you. The first 10 people I passed for CFP, the uh the one of the providers that I used, and it was my main provider, only had 900 questions in their Q bank. Okay, it was actually a little bit less, but 900. And for students would like panic, and I'd be like, "Don't worry, 900 questions is still a
A
lot of
lot of
questions."
questions. Yeah.
And they would go and they would pass because we would do a lot of open answer stuff. We would do worksheets and flashcards, and it was enough to fill up the day. They had plenty of work to do. But think about that, where somebody's doing 5,000 questions and then you have somebody doing 900 questions, and the 900 question person is passing the exam, but the 5,000 isn't. Well, that's just telling you results by volume. And we know this. We do it. We see it in the business. We see somebody who's on the phone all the time. They're really ineffective on the phone, but they're making a lot of calls or sending a lot of emails, and they're busy, 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 busy. But then you look at their production and you're going, how are you meeting with 25 people a month and getting three clients?
Right.
Maybe chop that down a bit. Maybe only meet with 10 clients and close five of them and bring your closing rate up to 50%.
Right.
And you've 2.5x your clients doing less than half of the work
Right.
because your pitch is better. You're more refined. You're
You're
asking better
refining, yeah.
questions.
You're refining your skills.
Exactly. And so, I think with anybody who's always trying to do a lot, you're not focusing on the skill part of this. And that's what month two is doing. So when you're getting to month three, if you're starting to feel that craving of, I want more, 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 go back and do some more month two stuff.
Yeah. And even month one.
You
Like
know?
go read your flashcards again. Like, I
Yep.
mean, you cannot, don't ever stop reading flashcards. It's a nice little warm up at that point.
That's
Right? The
right.
flashcards become nice warm ups at that point.
What do you think is the line of what I can expect from a flashcard?
I think the flashcards give you a gist or a hint of what you should know. So if I read a question about like, okay, target benefit plan. Now the back side of the flashcard is not gonna have everything about target benefit plans, but you should at a bare minimum know exactly what's written in the back of the flashcard, absolutely. But thing is, you're at this point, especially in month three, your mind should go beyond what's on a flashcard. And that's how I look at an interpretation of flashcard. It's like almost like a a, a light bulb moment on what I bare minimum need to know and
Mm,
what else do I know on top of that. And if
right.
if all I know bare minimum is just that on a flashcard, sure you could get by it, but that's kind of like saying I'm a C student, I'm gonna be okay with being a C student.
Yeah. I think that the flashcard serves as your fundamental, but it's not going to problem solve for you,
100%. Yeah.
right? Like it's going to tell me my definition, it's going to tell me fundamental facts, it will help me like review a concept, but it's still not going to solve the problem for you.
Yeah.
Now, are there 20 or 30 questions, 40 questions on the exam that are going to come directly from the flashcards? Yes, that's why we're giving it to you. We're literally handing you 25% on the of the exam on a silver platter. Here you go. Just know your flashcards.
Right.
You do that, you can probably get pretty close to a 30% if you did no other studying and just did your flashcards. You could probably score 30% on the CFP. Is it going to problem solve for you? No.
Mm.
Is it going to do the suitability? No. Is it going to do complex math? No. Is it going to help you eliminate answers on tough questions? Yes. But I
Absolutely.
think that's where flashcards stop. You
Yeah.
still got to do the problem solving, which that's where the multiple choice steps in and says, okay, now we're going to make sure that you understand how to problem solve and do 2 and 3 step questions.
Yeah. And with I like what you said. You're right. With flashcards basically bring you, the third of the battle or 40% of the battle. You know, um, I was noticing one of our classes that we had, it was a estate planning question, where the student, was reading this question and it hinted them that they thought it was like a Q-tip trust or something like
Mm,
that.
yeah.
But thing is, the rationale and the answer choice itself was actually more like a grantor trust
Mm,
where it was tainted of a tainted grantor trust where it was going to go back into the estate. And although a flashcard is not going to help you problem solve that, but if you don't understand how a grantor trust works and compare it to how a Q-tip is and how the retained interest works, you're never going to be able to problem solve that question
that's right. That's
basically.
right. Yeah, that's right. You can't problem solve without the fundamentals, but the fundamentals are not necessarily going to problem solve for you.
Right, right, exactly.
All right. And
Exactly.
that's one of those things. It's like, it's you have to know it, but it's not going to take you all the way. But you still got to know it because everybody who does it, like, it starts to make that transition easier for you to go, oh, I remember grats. You have to outlive the term. That can't be it. And that's more of those kind of
Exactly.
moments that you have on the exam that you go, thank God for my flashcard.
Right, exactly. 100%. 100%.
All right. So now we got month one, fundamentals, long and boring, very annoying, nothing that exciting. Month two, a little bit more exciting. We're starting to answer questions. We're doing application. We're not letting go of our flashcards in month two, but more of the fundamental stuff is starting to take a back seat. More of the application stuff. We move into month three. We're now starting to prep and refine. We're now putting up things on the wall. We're painting the wall. We're installing our ceiling fan. Okay. Now, last thing is now we're starting to get ready for the exam.
Yeah. Month
Time to
four.
move in, time to move in the furniture.
Time to move the furniture. Exam prep.
Okay. Okay. And this is now when things are going to look really refined, is when everything is now in it. And this is exam time. Exam time being we're primarily doing multiple choice and reviewing, and we're starting to do mock exams.
Yep.
How many mock exams do you think somebody should do in an ideal study plan?
Ooh. If we're looking at the month four period, I mean, if you're doing it one a week, so I'd say four on a low end, maybe push it up to as much as six. But six might be a little bit too much. So I'd
Six,
say
I think.
four is a good number. But what do you think?
I like 3 to 4.
3 to 4? Yeah.
I
I'd
like
say
one a week leading into the
yeah,
exam.
one a week leading into the exam, to do the CFP boards practice test, right? If you have whichever provider you use, they have their readiness exams, you
Sure.
have one or two of those. If you need to go out and buy another exam, you can. I know we have, how many do we have, Joe? We have
We have
oh,
two with a third in development.
yeah, we have two and a third in development, but we also kind of look at the CFP boards exam as kind of like part of the study plan when we build
Correct.
that out. So like
Absolutely.
yeah,
Like the
so that
CFP
that we
mock
we
should
have four
absolutely.
basically if we add that in basically.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing here is like I like 3, and we try to do it with 3, but and we kind of leave it up to students to do the fourth, and we'll typically make a recommendation to help them come up with that idea of
Right,
what that is. But I like 3 to 4 mocks because at that point you have a week to week gauge of how you're doing,
right.
and it's really easy to identify your weak points.
Yeah.
Right? I do the CFP mock, and I think that one is just I got to sit through 170 and get through 170 and learn how to get through 170.
Yeah, exactly.
Second mock, now I'm like, okay, I didn't do well at tax. I didn't do well at retirement. This week, it can help me figure out what I need to be doing and reviewing. I come back the next mock. If that's not improving, I got to continue working on it. If that has improved, I know what I'm doing during the week is working. So I like the immediacy of the feedback of I can spend the week working and then figure out if it's working from mock to mock.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, mock is kind of like a not a game day, but it's almost like a scrimmage, right? It's a scrimmage. It's a practice game, but it's a real game.
Yep.
It's a real game. Make it a real game. As you know, like we always say, I know you're very adamant about that. Like, don't take it at your office. Don't take breaks. Like, or a randomized breaks. Go to a library. Go to WeWork and take a test like you're taking a test. Like even though
Yep.
it's a mock.
Yeah. And I think the more like when I was studying for CFA, I treated every mock that I took, and I did the same thing. I did four. I would do three or four leading into it. But I remember specifically for level two, I would take that mock exact like I would leave the house because I didn't want the comfort of the house. Being tempted by getting up, taking a break and watching a little TV, getting on my phone. All of that was off the table because I would literally go to the library and I would sit down, I would get into a cubicle, put headphones on, and then treat it exactly like exam day. I'd bring a little scrap paper. So nothing was new on exam day.
Right.
I knew exactly what to expect. I knew my motions. I knew what time I wanted to get up. I knew what time I was going to eat breakfast. And because when nerves set in on exam day or leading into it, you got to have your process so you're not tempted to start doing weird stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. Because then it becomes predictable because you've done it a few times now, right? So it makes sense. Let me ask you something. What are your thoughts on like watching videos and listening to podcasts that offer, help with studying and things like that? But like, specifically videos that some of these exam providers put out. Like when's a good time to implement those videos into studying?
Like lectures or just like what we're doing right now.
I'd say lectures specifically. Let's talk about the lectures specifically
I
part.
think the lectures go into month one and two with the right to go back and rewatch pieces of it when necessary.
I see.
You should always be watching videos and going back when you need to, but you're not doing it like you did in month one, right?
Right.
And to give you an example, it's like if I record a video on retirement plans that's 60 minutes long. If your study block is 3 hours and you spent 60 minutes watching that, now you're going to be rushed in doing your questions. So the point isn't to go back and read. That's what you do in month one. That's what month one is for. But that part on money purchase, I want to watch what he had to say about that again. And that 7 minute piece on money purchase, I want to watch that. Oh, I want to watch how they did that calculation again. I remember them doing that calculation. So I would always go back and use the videos in pieces. When I did CFA, I watch pieces of videos like three or four or five just so I can watch them. How did you solve that? Let me see how you did that again.
Mm.
What's the connection of this and that? Oh, and for most of the time, it took me three or four watches because I would go and do it on my own and I get one step and I go, oh man, I forgot what to do. And then I go back and watch it again. And then I
Right.
get another step further. And then I go back and watch it again until I was able to do the whole thing.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. No, I mean that's fantastic. So we've laid out your 4 months,
Yep.
right? You want to make sure you're staying consistent with it. So what would you say is the tip of the week today, Joe?
I think this is you, man. This was your thing, and I think you should say it because
You want me
I
to?
really I really like this tip, and I like the way that you said it right as we were preparing for this. Why don't you share with everybody? Because this is a really it's simple, but it's very powerful.
Yeah. So you're like, huh? So
Mhm.
you gotta have study anchors. All right. You're busy. I get it. Listen, I'm busy too. I understand where the studying comes from, juggling family and your, work and trying to improve yourself and whatnot. Sometimes I have to tell people like, "Oh, you're a practitioner. Well, so am I. Like, I'm a
Mm,
practitioner as well. Oh, you have a family. So do I. Like, I get it. I understand it.
mm.
Been similar to those shoes, but you have to create those study anchors, right? Now, whether that study anchor is 45 minutes or an hour, it has to be there. Pick a time slot. Pick a time slot that you know that you won't be interrupted. You can't just you want to look at this anchor like it's a client meeting. Do you overbook a client meeting with something else? Like, oh, I'm just gonna do lunch instead, or I'm gonna pick up a phone and call a buddy instead, or I don't feel like doing this meeting because I'm just gonna watch TV because I'm tired. No, you show up. You show up because that is your client meeting. That is important. And that's how these study anchors are supposed to be.
And I like that you use the word anchor because like it's rooted in the ground.
Yes.
It's anchored into the ground. So when Raman is saying study anchors, these are blocks, these are non-negotiable blocks.
These are non-negotiable blocks.
They
You
are
know,
rooted in the ground. You don't book a client, you don't book family time, you don't book, your anchors are your anchors. And I really like that because a lot of times if our anchors are negotiable, we'll negotiate them.
yeah.
Especially with yourself. You're the easiest person to negotiate with.
Yep.
Oh, I've been studying so hard. I
Like, oh,
did.
I'm not gonna, yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
tired. I had to get to work early today, and we play these games. I've done this, I play these games and like I do it with the gym as well sometimes where I like, I can't go. Like I got to work early today and I had to take this early meeting because I had to meet with people on the East Coast. So I can go home and or I have a lot of work to do. And it's very easy to negotiate it.
Right.
You're the
100%.
It's like Shakespearean, right? Like you're the easiest person to convince.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Well, don't feel like studying? Okay, fine. I guess so. But yeah, anchors. Set up your anchors. 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Turn it into like a client meeting type of anchor. Block off everything. Put your phone away. Put everything away. You're just staying studying and focused. And once you start off with one anchor, I'd like for you to start off with multiple anchors throughout the day, right? So you might have like an anchor in the morning and you might have an anchor in the afternoon and you might have an anchor in the evening,
Mm.
right? Build a capacity. And then once you're able to study for 45 minutes, 60 minutes, then you expand that time out as you get closer to the exam day. Once you know you built a good habit, you build it out further. Make it longer. I know you don't like shorter time blocks, you like longer time blocks, but what would you say is the ideal anchor time block would you want a student to set aside?
So me personally, I am a big believer in starting slow and then building. But my personal preference, and I think any CFP student who's succeeded knows that you got to sit for periods of time because sometimes you just get in the groove. But if that's not possible, I have no problem with, splitting my studying. Is it as efficient? No. But are you getting it done? Yes. And that's all I care about. But my preference is 3 hour blocks because it takes you about 20 or 25 minutes to get into it. The stress of the
Yeah,
day, you're kind of thinking about other things, and about 25, 30 minutes in. And that's why I always like to start with flashcards because it helps me transition from my workday into my study. And at about 30 minutes in, now I'm starting to feel locked in. And now I have 2.5 hours where I'm locked in. And 2.5 hours of studying is a lot.
yeah,
It's a lot of study. You can get a lot done in 2.5 hours. You can crush. And if you do that repeatedly day in and day out, and you don't necessarily need to start there, but I think if you repeatedly do that day in and day out, you're going to get yourself into a really good position.
yeah, 100%. Well, with that being said, Joe, what are we thinking? How do you summarize everything?
Well, now you have your perfect study plan broken into 4 months, four distinct pieces with four distinct goals. And what we're going to do next week is we're going to start talking about five of the hardest topics. And really, what I want you to think about is what you're going to relegate in month one, like all those hard things that you wish you had studied harder. We're going to talk about it next week, those five hardest topics that absolutely have to be addressed in month one. spending the time, doing the reading, doing the practice calculations, doing all those hard things that everybody at the end comes back and goes, "Oh, I wish I read it more."
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go back to the book 30 times at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Goes
That's what
back
you
to the
do in 1 week.
foundation, right? Like that's the foundation. You build it strong, you know exactly what these hard topics are going to be. It's going to make things a lot easier as you study it.
Hell yeah. So with that being said, everybody, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel so we can keep bringing you episodes just like this one. If you're confused or you need help or you're not sure where to start with your 4-month study plan, or Joe, Raman, I'm not sure exactly how to lay this out. Raman is going to put a link in the bottom of this video. Feel free to book an assessment. We'll spend 30 minutes together going through study plans, assessing where you are, helping you think about this study plan. And we will see you guys on our next episode.